So the next stop in Abraham's story is with Hagar. And in the story of Hagar, you see that Abram and Sarah did not necessarily trust the plans that God had placed before them, and they try and take it into their own hands. And so Sarah encourages Abram to take Hagar, the slave, as a concubine, as another wife, and they would have a kid together, and they'll name that kid Ishmael. Um, Now, Hagar probably is an unwilling participant in this in some sense. She doesn't really have much of a choice because of her culture, the cultural situation that she finds herself in. But Hagar her name means immigrant. And so what you see here is Abram is abusing a slave, and he's abusing the immigrant. And there's a lot of directions that you can go with this sort of connection in the rest of Scripture. God makes it very clear that His people ought to care for the orphan, the widow, the poor among them, and the immigrant. And there's a lot of laws that God institutes in Jewish culture, Israel's culture, in which they take care of the immigrants and the aliens around them. And so this is a pretty significant point in the story in which you see Abram and Sarah, they're not caring for their slave, their servant, and they're not caring for the immigrant. And Abram ends up having a child by her, who's Ishmael, and you'll see her story continue to develop. How God responds to this and the way He makes penance for this, right, is He says to continue in this covenantal relationship with you, you're going to have to be circumcised, and the children that you bear and your grandchildren that are born to you will also have to be circumcised, and this is the sign that you are part of the covenant. It's really interesting then that circumcision impacts the very place or the very thing that He uses to abuse His own slave Hagar and the immigrant. So some food for thought today.